Hello, my name is Jim Lucan. Today I'm kicking off a series of videos. All of them deal with the subject of coastal flooding. If you live at the coast of South Carolina or you're thinking of living at the coast of South Carolina, flooding is an issue you need to understand and study. And so what I hope to do with this series of videos is give you a little bit of insight into the history of flooding that's occurred, particularly here in Horry County, South Carolina, where we've had a lot of floods. And if you are a prospective land buyer or a home buyer or a home builder, what I hope to do is give you some tips about what to look for, what to avoid, and how to determine if indeed the land you're thinking of purchasing for a home is prone to flooding. One of the hardest and most difficult lessons to learn about coastal flooding is that the ecosystems that occur at the coast, many of them are naturally flood prone. What that means very simply is the organisms that live there have adapted to periodic flooding. Flooding tends to bring in nutrients to those ecosystems and keep the systems productive. And so flood pulsing of these systems is necessary and is something that has happened for thousands of years. It will continue to happen. And of course, the problems occur when humans try to insert themselves into this flood cycle and build houses or other sorts of structures that then get caught in the flood cycle. One of the real problems of flooding is not the water, it's the memory. In particular, it's the memory of people. And what I mean by this very simply is, if there is a flood, like the one right behind me here, everybody recognizes it as a flood and they recognize it as a problem. However, usually what happens is the floodwaters recede, things dry up, and then people forget. And in particular, if you go to areas that flood frequently and there hasn't been a flood there in the recent history, you can walk around and it's really hard to believe that that particular area might have been under 2, 3, maybe even 6 feet of water just a few weeks or months in the past. And so people tend to forget about floods, and as a result, oftentimes find themselves purchasing homes or purchasing land in areas where they don't know it floods, or they basically just forgot about how bad floods can be. This issue of memory, however, can be fixed because luckily, if there has been a flood or frequent flooding on a parcel of land, usually you can go in there and you can find legacies or evidence of past flooding, and that evidence will tell you something about the hydrology of the site. It will tell you something about how much water has been on the site, and will also tell you just how risky that area is as far as flooding. Flooding in coastal South Carolina is closely related to the issue of wetlands. It's also closely related to the issue of development. And unfortunately, what we've seen in coastal areas is more development, which tends to make water run off quicker. And we've also seen the elimination of wetlands. Wetlands tend to act as giant sponges, and they hold the water and keep it from escaping from the ecosystems quickly. And so as we have more development and we lose wetlands, we also have an increased risk of floods. If you are a prospective home buyer and you're looking at a piece of land where you might build a house, wetlands are a good indicator of flood potential. Wetlands are indicated by both the plants that grow there and the types of soils that are there and the types of hydrology you see. And so if you can go into a site and you can look for some of the key wetland variables, that will give you a good indication as to whether the site you're considering for building a house has high or low flood potential. One of the best tools you can use to determine if indeed an area is prone to flooding is looking at what are called FEMA maps. And so one of the videos that I'll be producing will show you how to access FEMA maps, how to read them, and how to determine if your property is in a flood zone.